Hey, thanks for tuning into my podcast. This is Big Head on the Block, hosted by me, Tim Henderson, aka Big Head. Hey, welcome back to Big Head on the Block. From rookie to retirement, we're going to give you some insight on what it takes to have an extended career in law enforcement. Retirements are usually 20, 25, or 30 years. In certain cases, they'll let you go 32 years. So in order to make it to the 32-year maximum or the 20-year, whatever your retirement is, there's a lot of things that you got to take into consideration. So we're going to start out with the basics. We're going to start out with the academy. So if you've made it to the academy, congratulations. Either you're an exceptional candidate and you got selected, or the department's having trouble recruiting and you just got picked because you were the best of the rest. Either way, you have an opportunity to not only shine, but to define your career path. So no matter which one you are, you're in the academy. When you're in the academy, they're going to give you the basics. They're going to teach you all the fundamentals of being a cop. They're going to teach you the laws. They're going to teach you everything that gives you a general understanding of how to be a cop. Then in the end, you have to pass a test. If you're in Louisiana, you have to pass a post test. And at that point in time, you're certified to work anywhere in the state. The next thing that happens is typically you get put with a field training officer or FTO, and you become the FNG, the fucking new guy. All right, people don't say that anymore, but they need to. You got to taunt these new guys. All the older cops, it's a rite of passage. You need to make sure these young cops get put in their place from time to time. It's just a rite of passage. There's nothing wrong with harassing them a little bit, because they're in for a long, rough career, and cops just like to crack jokes on each other. So it is what it is. Let's get to the FTO phase of it. With an FTO, what happens is you take everything that you learned in the academy, you put it to practical use, right? But the one thing you have to consider is this. I don't like when FTOs tell everybody, forget everything you learned in the academy, because that's not really the reality. The reality of it is they gave them a foundation. You have to build upon that foundation. So FTOs, if you're telling them forget everything they learned in the academy, probably ain't a good practice to do that, because they need to retain a lot of that stuff for a lot of different reasons. And look, every cop has an individual way that they like to patrol and however they're going to make a difference in crime. So everybody's unique in how they approach police work. So you're with an FTO number one. In Baton Rouge, for an example, I had 3 different FTOs. I had a primary, Joe Kolar. I had a secondary, Otis Nakas. And my third one was Tom Sibley. Tom, if you're listening, you're an animal, sir. Then I went back to Joe, and he's the one who cut me loose in the final phase. And that's when I became a solo officer. So in Baton Rouge, they probably still do the same thing. You have to go through several phases, and you have to pass every phase. If you don't pass one, back in the day, you just didn't have a job. Now they try to keep recycling you through because they're kind of hurting for manpower, and they're going to do everything they can to retain you, because they've actually put a lot of money into you at this point in time, from the academy and the training that you got, and also the equipment and everything. So sometimes people make it, and then they don't really make it through a whole career because they weren't really the best candidate anyway, or they've shown some things that were disparaging in the FTO program. But departments aren't really interested in cutting people loose anymore. It's a sign of the times. It is what it is, So you got to deal with what you can. When you're with a FTO, you're going to hear their philosophy. They're going to give you some guidance, and you have to absorb everything they're telling you, because little things stay with you. And I'm going to tell you something that stayed with me. My first FTO, Joe Kolar, when I was at Baton Rouge, and like I said, we're going to focus because that's where I spent the last 24 and a half years of my career. I remember one day when we were riding looking for a suspect, we were driving down the street, and Joe said, when you're driving down a long street and you don't know where this suspect may be, you need to focus on the middle of the street and let your peripheral catch movement. And I always had good peripheral vision, so it worked out really good for me. I remember that he told me that, and that was back in 1996, and I still remember to this day the moment that he told me that and where we were at. And it made perfect sense, because if you isolate your eyes to one side of the road or the other when you have no idea where this person is, then you're going to miss something, because your peripheral, if you're looking right, you're going to be able to see center, but you're not going to be able to see left. And let me tell you, this has been very valuable. So look in the middle, let your peripheral pick up. Obviously, if you see something, you're going to transition right away to it. But that was something of value that Joe taught me, and it stayed with me. Now I'm going to go to the second FTO, Otis Nakas. Let me tell you what Otis Nakas taught me. I was driving with him, and look, I had been a cop with East Baton Rouge Sheriff Department and LSU PD. So I had 5.5 years of patrol experience with LSU PD. But this had never crossed my mind. Otis asked me one day, we were in traffic, and he said, let me ask you a question. And I'm like, what's that? He said, if we have a situation right now and you have to veer off from the path that we're on now, how you going to get out? We're in heavy traffic. I'm bumper to bumper, right? And I said, what you mean? He said, you see how close you are to the car in front of you? And I'm like, yeah. He said, all right, we got cars on either side of us now. If we're at a red light and something happens and we have to react, you're so close to the car in front of you that you're not going to be able to maneuver out of the way. Then I analyzed the moment, the situation that we were in, and I realized, yeah, you're 100% right. I have boxed myself in inadvertently, but it never crossed my mind. But he was a seasoned veteran just like Joe was. And those are little things that I picked up on. Now, the next FTO, I went, like I said, Joe, Otis, and Tom. The thing I learned most from Tom is this. Now, understand this. Tom was a tough guy. Like I said, you're an animal, sir. Tom was a compassionate guy. He was very understanding. He was low key, but I've seen him get upset a couple times. And let me tell you, that guy's fierce, man. But the thing I learned from him wasn't really a saying, but it was just an attitude. He was very easygoing on these calls for the most part. He didn't raise his voice. He had a good delivery, but at certain situations, at certain points in the call, because we worked Scotlandville, so we had some calls that you had to become aggressive on. I realized how fierce he could be in just a split second. And it kind of fit my personality because, when I was at LSU and when I started working with the city, we all developed our own style of policing, and mine closely mimicked him. But I always understood just how fast he could react, and I always appreciated that fact. And like I said, Tom was he was easygoing, but just watching how he handled himself, I put that in my data bank for later. And I tried to take little things from everybody. But those first 3 FTOs, they got me out to where I became a solo cop. So when I became a solo cop, then obviously you have to define your own self, your own goals. Now, when I was a younger cop, let's just say this, I was a little more aggressive and reactive. I didn't give people a lot of opportunity to be compliant. And then as my career expanded and I got some years in experience, I understood that you didn't always have to get physical right away. You can give people the opportunity and be very clear with them, be very direct. Hey, this is your option. Either you listen, which could be something as simple as get out of the car whenever I tell you to get out of the car on a violator stop, right? Or I'm going to pull you out the car. A lot of times you don't have to get physical, but when you're a young cop, you tend to go physical a little bit more because that's just kind of the nature of the beast, if you will. You are a little more hands-on. When you get a little more experience, then you kind of understand, not that you can't get duped, but you kind of understand people and you learn to read people a little bit better. So it's a little bit easier in the end to get cooperation without having to use physicality. But make no mistake about it, this don't work with everybody. And when it's time to get down. You bring a maximum amount of force on these people. Too many people out here on the streets play games with the police. Cops out here, you need to know one thing. We never let anybody talk smack to us, and we always handled our business. And I'm urging you to take back control of these streets, take back the environment, and let these people know y'all not here to play games. Y'all here to enforce the law. And I ain't talking about your average citizens. I'm talking about these knuckleheads out here that think they can run their mouth, that think they can get physical with you. It's one thing if they run. It is what it is. They run to get away. That's fine. That's what they do. Criminals run. Your job is to catch them. If you don't catch them, do your best to be able to identify them so you can get them later. But don't let them talk smack to you. When they talk smack, you control them, because whether or not they're threatening you and they tell you, well, I got the First Amendment right to say what I want. No, you don't. Not on my stop. You don't have to let people curse you out. There's a whole lot of laws and there's a whole lot of reasons to detain people. So understand how and why you can detain somebody, understand reasonable suspicion, and by all means, understand probable cause. But we don't want to get too deep into that. What I want to say is this. I learned one thing, and let me tell you the first time I learned it. I'm driving down the street and I see a guy. I'm heading to a call, and I said, okay, my gut told me this was the guy that we were looking for. It didn't have any description or anything, but a cop will tell you there's a certain look that somebody will give you. Either they're trying to avoid making eye contact with you, or they're hoping that you just keep driving past them. And look, I knew that something was happening at a house. When I drove by, I went straight to the house because there was a girl in trouble. And I got there, and sure enough, it was that guy that had been walking up the street that had committed whatever crime was occurring at the time. It was some kind of domestic dispute, but I'm not sure. But I said to myself, you should have listened to your gut. So my phrase is this. I came up with this phrase. I'm going to patent it one day or trademark it. If there is doubt, there is no doubt. And I may have said this on the podcast before. If there is doubt whether you should stop them, go ahead and stop them. If there is doubt whether you should turn right, turn right. Your gut is there for a reason. I didn't listen to my gut that day, but I also had, 7 or 8 years experience as a cop. So it wasn't like I was a rookie. I was focused on getting to the call because I'm thinking that the call needed to be handled on scene because, like I said, it was domestic in nature. So I didn't really do wrong by not stopping him because I didn't know what was actually occurring. Now, I didn't really have reason to stop him, so let me be clear about that. It would have been a stop and talk. It would have just been a casual conversation. I'd have been like, hey, man, what you got going on type scenario, right? I didn't really have any reason to believe that he was involved other than my instincts. And I could have articulated his movement because he probably would have ran right at the time. Then I could have chased him, put out the description, and hopefully we could have apprehended him. But I didn't really have any reason to stop him other than just casual conversation. Which you can have casual conversations. And if he would have ran, the Supreme Court says you can chase him because the average people don't run from cops. So that's just one little quick story. Let me tell you another story. Don't leave people in the back of your vehicle, your unit, whenever you are doing stuff on scene and not monitor them. And I'm going to tell you 2 reasons why. One time I was an LSU cop. I didn't secure my unit. I started chasing somebody else and I left a bad guy in the back seat. And when I came back, the bad guy was gone and we were on LSU's campus. So some student let him out and I failed to lock my doors. He couldn't let himself out because you can't exit the back door of a police car. Somebody actually has to let you out from the outside. So somebody let this guy out. It was a theft case in the union, but it is what it is. He got away. I learned a lesson. Sometimes we learn lessons through failure as much as success. But in the same situation, and I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous podcast, several years later, we were in Scotlandville, and one of my coworkers, Troy Lawrence, 4439, I was 4429. We are in the avenues. He got a person in the back of his unit. We're looking for another suspect. And we left him unattended, but the door was locked. We came back, he had kicked out the window and had made his getaway. That was another lesson learned. So I tell cops all the time, don't leave somebody in your unit. I know you want to get involved in whatever else is going on, but you still have to make sure that you manage the person that you have in your unit because they will get away. They will kick out your windows. Other people will let them out. Whatever the case may be. So lesson learned, right? From rookie to retirement. These are all things that we learn in between. Another thing I learned is that personality conflicts sometimes get involved. Egos get involved in the police world. So you may be a really good cop and you may not get the advantages that other people get that you think maybe aren't quite as qualified. I'll give you an example. I thought that I had put myself in a position to be successful in a new team that they were putting together. I wasn't selected, and I thought the people that were selected, I thought one was of caliber to get selected, but I didn't think the other three were. It was nothing against them. I just knew what I had to offer, and I knew what their reputation was as far as how they worked and how successful they were. I made my point to the chief. It didn't matter. He didn't change the team. He kept the team in place. That was okay, but I still let him know that, hey, I thought I deserved to be on this team, and I was a little disappointed. Later in my career, and this is the reason I bring it up, I didn't get selected for another team probably 10 years later. I don't know, give or take. I lose track of time. But when I didn't get selected, I was a little perturbed, because I had been successful. I had been nominated for Officer of the Year multiple times, and I actually had won Officer of the Year in 2007. So I thought my work spoke for itself. But when I didn't get selected, I was told by one of the commanders that it was already predetermined who was going to be on that team, even though they went through the selection process. And look, that happens to cops. You can't get mad about it. A lot of times, if they put out a opening, you can put in for it, and maybe for some reason you get it. But I'll say this, there's a lot of time that spot's already been offered to somebody. And for instance, if I put in to be on a fugitive task force team, but they've already talked to somebody about it, they're going to go through the formal process of interviewing. But if that person that they talked to wanted it, they're going to give it to them. Whether they're friends, whether it's just a situation where they need this particular cop, or whether it's a situation where they really deserve the job. So as I said, it is what it is. Sometimes relationships factor in more than productivity. And that's one negative about police work. You don't always get judged on how productive you are. You get judged on your demeanor. You get judged on your reputation. There's a whole lot of things that come into play when supervisors or people that are decision makers make decisions on the personnel that they allow to come under them. And look, it took me 12 years to make detective. I didn't put in till maybe 8 to 10 years into it because I really love being a street cop, but I didn't get selected. I never got down because I really didn't want to be one that bad, but I finally got the opportunity to be one. And I think I mentioned this on another podcast, but the commander of the division who selected me, he said, "Tim, I'm going to be honest with you. You never was my first or second selection, but you kept putting in. You was always third or fourth. You kept putting in, so I decided to give you an opportunity." And, I was happy that he gave me the opportunity. And, I spent a year and a half in that division. I learned a lot, had some good times. I went back to the streets. Ultimately, reputation probably got me on that one because I wasn't always an easy employee. I was always a productive employee. But the one thing about me is I didn't really take a lot of stuff from these commanders. If you treated me fair, I was going to treat you fair. But as they say in the prison world, if you mess with me, I'm going to buck you. And I came up with a phrase, "Fucking with me ain't stress free." I don't curse a lot on my podcast, so I usually say to civilians, messing with me ain't stress free. And that's the way I had my career. If you were good to me and you treated me well, I was going to work hard and do everything I can to be productive because ultimately we're working for the people to give them a good quality of life. If you treated me bad, I was going to treat you equally bad, but I was still going to be productive and I still was going to do my job. So I never let atmosphere dictate how I managed my career because people that I didn't like or they didn't like me, as far as supervisors go, I didn't hang around them. I went out in the field. I was in my element when I was on the street. So those cops out there who have a little edge on them, who may think that they're not being treated fair, just get away from those supervisors. They have their own vision of how things should be ran, and they're in a position of power. It's them that has the authority at that time. So don't let it define how you do your job. You get out there and you be a difference maker, all the way from a rookie to your retirement. I was putting people in jail. I was managing squads up to the day I retired. And let me tell you, I ran into a lot of really good people, a lot of really good cops. Here's another thing. to the rookies, all the way up to the retirees, the people fixing to retire. Most people think that everybody wants to be great. Most people are okay being average. Nick Saban said that. And in the police world, it's no different. I've already mentioned this. You got your difference makers and you got your get-by guys. You got some people that just come to work to get a paycheck and do as little as they can and go home. And those people are the people that never get in any trouble and that the supervisors want on their squad because they don't have an edge to them. They're not built like people like me, and I can name you 100 other ones that have the same type mindset. Look, we love this job so much coming up. There were times, and every old cop from my era will tell you, we said at the end of an incident or something, man, I can't believe they pay us to do this. We would do it for free. That was our mentality. We loved the action. We loved the energy. We brought the energy. We brought the excitement to the job. And we clowned around with each other. You know, that's some things that a lot of police departments don't do. And to the young cops, get out your feelings, man. When people crack on you, it's only because that's what cops do. Y'all don't want to do it anymore because y'all get in y'all feelings. But a good cop can take a joke, or he can take it when he gets cracked on. And let me tell you, I recently had lunch with a couple of cops, and one of the guys was a little shorter than us. So you know what I did? Me and the other cop that was waiting on him, we put a booster seat in the chair because we knew that when he came there, he would see it, right? So we kind of funneled him to the chair we wanted him to sit in, and he looked at it, and he knew he was taking a shot at him, but that's what cops do. He didn't get all in his feelings and start hollering and crying and leave. He picked the booster seat up, put it somewhere else, and came back and sat down, and we had a good lunch. So get out your feelings. Understand this, when you're the FNG and when you're a lieutenant, people going to crack on you, man. That's what cops do. As soon as you let them know it bothers you, they're going to keep doing it. So we've gone over a lot of things on this podcast, but what I want to say is this: tactics. Those out there, y'all are using horrible tactics, and I don't care if you get mad at me or not. I recently viewed some Baton Rouge footage, and I saw a couple of cops that put themselves in a situation where eventually they took a guy out of the car with a gun, and neither one of them were tactically sound in anything they did. And I'm not saying that to pick on them. I'm saying that to say this: if you're out there and you see people doing things wrong tactically, you have got to address it, because here's the thing. They can be bad at their tactics. They can get shot, but then you have to respond there, right? You have to respond to get them. So now your life's being put in danger, having to respond to back them up because they're making critical mistakes. Officers, use your tactics now more than ever, because these people are willing to engage you. They're willing to ambush you. And if you're not tactically superior, you leave yourself subjected to immense bodily harm, which could be up to and include being shot. Then the responding officers have to come and help and save you, but they also have to engage this perpetrator, right? So if maybe you would have done it right from the beginning, we wouldn't have had to manage it on the back end. But most importantly, you want to go home to your wife, your kids, your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, whoever you live with. You want to live, you want to survive, you have got to be tactically sound and tactically superior. There's a lot of courses out there that you can go to. There's a lot of video on YouTube, on TikTok. You can watch and analyze some of these things. I see videos where cops are on the hood of the car shooting into the windshield. And I'm like, why would you ever be on the hood of the car? They're fighting for their career and their freedom, because they're saying, I had justification to use deadly force. They shot through the windshield. Yeah, you did. But how dumb was it for you to get on top of the hood to begin with? There's nothing that valuable that you put yourself on the hood of a car unless it's some little kid stuck in the car, and that's the only way you think you can stop them. But there's a whole lot of other reasons not to get on the car. And I can't really actually think of one reason to get on the car, because even in the kid scenario, you should be able to engage this person as they're driving off. Because if you got time to get on the hood, you had time to do something else. Standing in front of the car, nope, don't do it. We had a cop back when I was a detective. He decided to get out and interact with a vehicle with two suspects in it. He walked to the front of the car. Eventually, he put his foot on top of the bumper. Dude, you got us in the crossfire. plus the tactics that you're using now going to get you killed, because all they had to do was punch the accelerator and bam, he was ran over. Whether he died or not, I don't know. But it put me in a position where I had to be very forward with the driver and let him know that if he decided to accelerate, that he wasn't going to make it through the day. But like I said, you making me respond and react to something that you didn't do right. So it's not about how good you are all the time. Sometimes it's about how bad other people are. When y'all have these situations, debrief. Go over the good, the bad, the other. If you find that you did something wrong tactically, and look, we all do that from time to time. There's nobody above making a tactical mistake, because when you're out there being proactive or responding to a call, everything is fluid. Everything is unique. There's really no game plan other than you have to continue to process when things start occurring. You have to make sure that you manage your emotions, and you have to make sure that you continue to process. That way you're making good decisions, good sound decisions, good tactical decisions that keep you alive, keep your fellow officers alive, because sometimes you're going to have to save them from their own self. And that's the reality of it. To the supervisors out there, y'all have the wisdom, the knowledge, experience, whether you was a get-by guy and just made it because you just were there long enough, or whether you was a good functional cop and was out there being proactive, making arrests and setting an example for how to deter crime and how to provide a good quality of life for these citizens. My challenge to you is this: before you leave, give back. Let them know what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong. Mentor them. These young cops don't have enough mid-level people. When I was a young cop at Baton Rouge in 96, we had people that had 5 and 10 years that mentored us as much as the older people, because we didn't really react or interact with our command staff as much. But the 10, 15-year guys, those are the guys we leaned on. And we had a lot of good guys in the era that I started that were good young cops at the time. So we all figured everything out between us. We'd ask the next guy up, 2-3 year guy, then 5-year guy, 10-year guy. Rarely did we ever go to a sergeant or lieutenant, because it just wasn't the way things happened back then. So mentor these young cops, the mid-level cops, help them have enough mindset and intuition to be of value to the young cops as they coming on, and take responsibility and be a mentor. Don't just say they don't know what they're doing and I can't tell them nothing. Keep telling them. They'll listen sooner or later. When they get punched in the mouth because they didn't do something right, they'll learn the lesson the hard way, huh? I mean, it's as simple as that. We tell people, hey, you're doing this wrong, and that wrong, until something happens negatively. Maybe they're not going to pay attention because maybe they think they're doing everything right. And unfortunately, they probably not. To the young cops out there, I'm going to tell you this. Baton Rouge, they just gave y'all a pay raise, or gave y'all a pay raise, right? So here's what I'm telling you. You have the opportunity to come out and be the highest paid rookies around. Come out here, change your mindset. Be out here on the streets. You have to get out here and enforce the law. You have to do your very best to create a good quality of life for people. The Hug a Thug concept, handing out hot dogs in the hood, all these other gatherings that they have, they're really not necessary in the police world. You can have a good community policing, and your street cops and other divisions can be out here and be the face of your department, and they can interact with the community. You putting on all these events have nothing to do with quality of life. It has nothing to do with anything regarding police work. All it is you trying to foster a relationship, and it's usually politically motivated. And I get it. You want to get out to the community, but you got to quit doing so much community outreach and get some structure and discipline back into the world, to these communities, man. These communities are starving for the ability to go from point A to point B and not think it's an accomplishment. All right. We've had so many shootings lately. It's May 7th when I'm putting this podcast out. I don't know when I'll release it, but we've had shootings at the mall. We've had people shot getting off the bus. We got to stop this kind of crime. And the young officers, y'all the ones that are out there on the streets now, the 1 to 5 year guys, you got to pick up your game and you got to make sure that you're doing your job. All this working extra duty, overtime, that's fine. I get it. We all had to do that. But during the course of your 10-hour day, for Baton Rouge specifically, EBR is 12. For your 10-hour day, do your very best to try and influence crime in your area. Get to know everybody. To the young guys, one more thing I'm going to tell you. If you out here and you want to be successful, you have got to foster relations with people in the community. You have got to build relationships with people that you see every day. You have got to know that I'm on these same streets 4 days a week. I see the same people over and over. You have to bring them into your life. You have to make them accept you. You have to accept them. You have to appreciate the environment that they're in, and they have to understand that you have a job to do. But you need to have relationships with them. That way, if something happens, they can call you. If you're not working CIs, you'll never be a great cop. If you can't pick up the phone, and look, I can pick up the phone right now. If something happens in South Baton Rouge, I can pick up the phone right now and get an answer. If you can't do that, I've been retired 5 years, man. If you can't do that and you working in South Baton Rouge, you need to reevaluate what you're doing and the process of how you're doing it. Get into these communities, develop informants. You can have informants that you've either arrested and they decide to flip on somebody, whatever the case may be. However you get these informants, you can have people that just want to be paid informants that'll give you information. But the relationships, that's the key. That's the one where the little old lady or the business owner calls you and says, hey, big head, this is what happened. This is who did it. Thank you. I got it. But then, like I said in other podcasts, you have to react and show them that you're actually going to take that information and do something with it and call them back. If you can't make an arrest, hey, man, I gave all the information to the detectives. We don't have probable cause to make an arrest right now, but everything you said was vital. Let them know that you appreciate them. That's how you develop a rapport. That's how, not too long ago, I got a call from a guy. He didn't know I was retired. He told me what happened. He told me what was going on. And I never told him I retired. I just said, I'll take care of it, because that's what people want. They want to know that you'll take care of it. They don't care if you're having a bad day. They don't care if your son got a game at 3:00 and you can't make it. They want you to be there for them. And if you're at work, you should be there for them. If you're not at work, and listen, you can answer your phone or you cannot. That's up to you. Everybody is different. I answered my phone till late in the evening, and at night, because the last umpteen years I worked day shift, I didn't have my phone probably from 10 at night till, 4 in the morning when I woke up. But if I saw somebody called, I would call them back as soon as I could. And a lot of times they would leave me voicemails with information. So respond to these people at home, because look, being a cop, if you're going to be effective, you have to understand a couple of things. And one is crime has no set time frame. Crime happens when it's very inconvenient all the time. If you want to be a great cop, if you don't want to be average, do the things that are going to elevate you to the next level. Baton Rouge, you just got a pay raise. Congratulations. Y'all take back our department. I don't want to get too negative here, but we had a mayor and we had a chief of police that not only destroyed but dismantled our police department. There's still a couple of stragglers left over. And I'll tell you this, if you are in charge, which we have a new chief, well, he's not really new, he's been there 2 or 3 years, you have to make a decision on how you want to be thought of whenever you're no longer in that position. You have got to restore the glory that BRPD once had. You have got to make that a destination for officers to come and want to spend 30 years. All the outside influences, all the people that have their own agenda, they're all going to try and manage the Baton Rouge City Police Department, and for that matter, every other department. But the people in command, the sheriffs, the chiefs of police, y'all have got to do everything you can to entice your officers to want to come to work, to make them want to stay and do 20 or 30 years at your institution, right? Period. It's incumbent upon y'all. Y'all have to start from the top and the bottom guy. So there's a top guy and a bottom guy in every police department. And the top guy and the bottom guy, I'll tell you this, they all have different mindset, and they all have different things to offer. So if you're the chief or you're the low guy and you're not putting your input in, then you're doing a disservice to yourself and to the department, because you may have the idea that changes everything. You may be the one person that didn't say anything, and you come to find out later that it would have made a difference, that it was something that should have been said prior. So good luck to all the cops out there, BRPD administration, Mayor Sid Edwards. I'm telling you, us retirees, we watching. We offered our help. Y'all say y'all want it, but y'all don't always ask for it, and that's okay. We're out here if y'all need us, but we're watching. We want y'all to restore the glory that we had 10 years ago before these outside influences, including the previous mayor, came in and destroyed and dismantled that police department. Bring some pride back to BRPD and to the other sheriffs, state police, and everybody. Make sure that y'all too are creating a good environment for your officers to be recognized when they do things good and to be told when they don't do things good. Be fair, be impartial. Give some of the guys that may be not politically connected or be your friends the opportunity to rise through the ranks, become detectives, and give them a career path to where they can say, hey, I'm not going to be stuck in uniform my whole career. I have an opportunity to move on, right? And that's how you create a good functioning police department. So from rookie to retirement, I hope your career goes well. If you're at the end and your career is close to ending, understand this. When you get in the free world, there's plenty of opportunities out there. Nothing like being a cop. You'll never do anything like you're doing now. So enjoy it while you have it, because you'll miss it. Everybody misses it to some extent when they leave. I wish all you well. Be productive and help those communities out there feel like they can walk through the streets peacefully without being victimized. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Big Head on the Block. I'm Tim Henderson, the host. I look forward to dropping another podcast soon. Please give us any comments, likes, dislikes, or any topics y'all would like to discuss. Thank you.